How ancient humans survived history's deadliest predators. Imagine it's 300,000 years ago. You're standing in tall grass somewhere in modern-day South Africa. It's dusk. You have no phone, no shelter, no weapon beyond a sharpened stick. The air smells of dry earth and something else, animal musk, close. Behind you, a sound. Rhythmic. Breathing that ISN tires. You are not the apex predator in this story. Not even close. Our ancestors spent millions of years as prey. They were hunted by cats twice the size of lions, by hyenas that could crack elephant bone, by crocodilians larger than any alive today. They were ambushed in the night, stalked across open savannas, dragged from sleep at the mouths of caves. The fossil record isn't subtle on this point. The bones of early humans bear the marks of teeth that are not human. And yet, here you are, watching this video. Which means somehow, impossibly, they survived. Not just survived. They endured, they adapted, and eventually they did something unprecedented in the history of life on Earth. They looked back at the predators that had hunted them for millions of years, and they became the hunters. This is that story. And it is built entirely on real evidence, fossils, archaeological sites, and decades of scientific research that together paint one of the most remarkable survival narratives in natural history. The predator landscape, what was actually out there? To understand the survival story, you first need to understand what our ancestors were up against, and it was genuinely terrifying by any modern standard. Smilodon fatalis, the saber-toothed cat. At up to 280 kilograms, it was heavier than a modern lion and significantly more muscular in the forelimbs. Its upper canine teeth reached 28 centimeters in length. Fossil evidence from the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles and from numerous sites in East Africa and Eurasia confirms it shared its range with early hominins for hundreds, oft thousands of years. Unlike the popular image of a creature that jabbed with its teeth like a dagger, current paleontological consensus, based on jaw-biomechanics research, suggests Smilodon used a precision bite to sever major blood vessels, making it a highly efficient killer against large prey. Pachycracuta brevirostris, the giant short-faced hyena. This animal stood nearly a meter at the shoulder and possessed a bite force that could shatter large femurs to access marrow. It was not just a scavenger. Bone assemblages from sites in China and East Africa contain hominin bones with distinctive gnaw marks from this species. These are not ambiguous findings. They are direct fossil evidence that our ancestors were, at times, on the menu. Crocodylus thorbjornarsoni, an extinct Nile crocodile species documented in the Turkana Basin of Kenya, estimated to have reached between 7 and 7.5 meters in length. Research from the Smithsonian Institution's Human Origins program has identified bite marks consistent with this species on hominin bones dating back nearly 1.8 million years, found in sediment layers corresponding to ancient lake margins where early Homo would have gathered for water. And perhaps most underappreciated of all, Dinofelis, a false saber-toothed cat whose remains have been found in the same South African cave systems as Australopithecus and early Homo. At the Swartkrans cave site, paleoanthropologist K. Brain documented a skull of Paranthropus robustus with 2 puncture holes precisely matching the lower canine spacing of a Dinofelis specimen found in the same geological layer. This is as close to a forensic crime scene as the fossil record ever gets. Predator and prey, separated by 2 million years, still telling their story in bone. Fire, the first force multiplier. Among all the adaptations that enabled human survival against apex predators, fire stands alone in its transformative power. It is not merely a tool. It is a categorical change in the relationship between a species and its environment. The earliest controlled use of fire by hominins remains a subject of active research, but the evidence from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, published in 2012 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences by Francesco Bernan colleagues, pushes deliberate fire use back to approximately 1 million years ago. Burned bone fragments and plant ash were found in stratigraphic layers unambiguously associated with Homo erectus. The burning patterns could not be explained by natural wildfire. They were the result of fire that was maintained and controlled inside a cave. Fire changed the predator-prey equation in several simultaneous and reinforcing ways. First and most immediately, virtually all large predators that shared the range with early humans, including lions, leopards, and all known saber-toothed species, are instinctively averse to fire. A maintained campfire at night created a protective perimeter that no physical construction of that era could replicate. The radius of firelight was the radius of safety. Second, cooking dramatically increased the caloric yield of food. Richard Wrangham's catching fire hypothesis, first proposed in 1999 and supported by comparative anatomy studies across primates, argues that the shift to cooked food enabled the significant reduction in gut size seen in Homo erectus compared to earlier hominins. Digesting raw plant matter and raw meat requires an enormous proportion of the body's energy. Cooking predigests food externally, liberating that energy for other uses, including the metabolically expensive business of growing a larger brain. Third, and frequently overlooked, fire enabled sustained nocturnal social activity. Darkness had been the domain of predators. A fire pushed that boundary back, extending the useful social day by hours. Individuals could communicate, plan hunts, warn each other about predator movements, and transmit knowledge across generations in ways that were simply not possible in the dark. Every hour of firelit conversation was an hour of accumulated cultural intelligence. The real superpower: social intelligence and group defense. Here is something that rarely receives enough attention in discussions of human survival. We were never physically impressive animals. Compared to the predators who shared our range with, we are slow, fragile, poorly armored, and sensory mediocre. A lion detects prey by scent long before we see it. A hyena can sustain a pace that would exhaust a human runner within minutes. Dinophelus had the leverage, the claws, and the teeth. What we had was each other, and more specifically, the ability to coordinate under pressure in ways that no other primate could fully replicate. Primatologist Robin Dunbar's influential research on group sizes and neocortex volume, published in 1992 in Behavioral Brain Research, proposes that early Homo lived in social groups of approximately 50 to 150 individuals. These were not loose associations of individuals who happened to be in proximity. They were coherent social units with shared knowledge of local terrain, individual recognition of every group member, and the capacity for organized collective behavior, including defense. We have extraordinary fossil evidence for what this looked like in practice. At site of Dmanisi in Georgia, dated to 1.77 million years ago, researchers discovered a skull of a Homo erectus individual who had lost all of his or her teeth years, possibly decades, before death. The bone had fully resorbed around the empty sockets. This individual could not have chewed raw food. They survived entirely because others in the group provided for them, bringing food, likely processing it. This is among the oldest evidence anywhere on Earth for deliberate cooperative care of a vulnerable group member. That kind of social cohesion does not emerge by accident. Group defense against predators almost certainly used what primatologists call mobbing behavior, a strategy still documented today among baboons, chimpanzees, and several other primates, in which a group collectively charges, vocalizes aggressively, and throws objects to drive a predator away. Observations of fixed and hunter-gatherer communities confirm that humans use analogous tactics. The behavior has deep evolutionary roots because it works. A single lion will not press an attack against 20 coordinated individuals throwing rocks and brandishing sticks. And crucially, early humans possessed endurance running. Paleoanthropologist Daniel Lieberman's research at Harvard, published in Nature in 2004, demonstrates that Homo sapiens carries a suite of specific anatomical adaptations, the nucleus ligament stabilizing the head, an enlarged gluteus maximus, shortened toes, a well-developed Achilles tendon that make us exceptional long-distance runners. Not fast, not explosive, but capable of sustained locomotion that eventually exhausts quadrupedal animals. Persistence hunting, following prey or fleeing predators across distances far beyond what the other animal can sustain, is a strategy that remains in use among certain San communities in the Kalahari, and it was almost certainly part of the behavioral repertoire of Homo erectus. Stone, bone, wood, the earliest weapons. The shift from prey to active agent in the landscape required more than social organization and fire. It required the ability to project force, to threaten, injure, or kill at a distance. That is what weapons do, and the archaeological record traces their development with remarkable precision. The Oldowan stone tool industry, dating to approximately 2.6 million years ago and documented at the Gunna site in Ethiopia by Saileshi Sama and colleagues, represents the earliest confirmed evidence of deliberately shaped stone tools. The tools themselves, sharp-edged flakes struck from river cobbles, were not weapons in the modern sense. They were primarily used for butchering carcasses and processing plant foods. But the same cognitive capacity that produced an Oldowan flake, the ability to visualize a desired shape inside raw material and systematically extract it, is the foundational skill that all subsequent weapon-making builds upon. The first purpose-built weapons for hunting and defense may be far older than most people assume. In 1997, archaeologist Hartmut Thiem excavated a series of wooden throwing spears from a lignite coal mine near Skaaningen in northern Germany. Dated to approximately 300,000 years ago, the Skaaningen spears are between 1.82 and 2.5 meters in length, made from straight-grained spruce wood, and shaped with clear aerodynamic intent. The point of maximum thickness and weight falls in the front third of each spear, precisely as in a modern competition javelin. These are the oldest completely preserved hunting weapons ever recovered from an archaeological site anywhere on Earth. The implications of the Skaaningen spears cannot be overstated. A throwing spear fundamentally changes the terms of any encounter with a large predator. You are no longer constrained to contact range, the range of claws, teeth, and charging mass. You can engage, threaten, and if necessary kill from 20 to 30 meters of separation. That distance is not just a physical buffer. It is a cognitive and strategic transformation. For the first time, a prey animal could reliably apply lethal force to a predator without entering the predator's primary kill zone. Later, across a period spanning roughly 500,000 to 300,000 years ago, the Acheulean hand axe, a large bifacially napped teardrop-shaped tool, was being produced with sufficient consistency and technical sophistication across Africa, Europe, and Asia to imply cultural transmission across generations. The hand axe is not a purpose-built weapon. It is a multipurpose tool used for butchering, digging, and woodworking. But the same expertise in napping that produced a hand axe enabled the production of pointed flake tools capable of inflicting severe wounds, and increasingly of hafted points, stone tips bound to wooden shafts, that represent the precursors to the spear tips and arrowheads that would eventually give Homo sapiens decisive offensive superiority over every other large animal on the planet. Reading the bones, what the fossil evidence tells us. Much of what we understand about the ancient predator-prey relationship between hominins and the megafauna of the Pleistocene comes not from tools, not from fire, but from the bones themselves, and what they say when examined with the methods of forensic taphonomy. Cut marks and tooth marks on fossil bones carry information that can be read with remarkable precision. The location of a cut mark on a bone, whether on the shaft, near a joint, or at a muscle attachment point, reveals whether the animal was being butchered for meat, for marrow, or for hide. The cross-sectional profile of a mark reveals whether it was made by a stone flake or by a carnivore tooth. And critically, the stratigraphic order of marks, which came first, can tell us whether the hominin or the predator accessed a carcass first. At Oldoway Gorge in Tanzania, taphonomist Henry Bunn and later researcher Manuel Dominguez Rodrigo engaged in a decades-long scientific debate over precisely this question: were early hominins at oldaway primary hunters, or were they scavengers following behind lion and hyena kills? The current consensus, developed through careful analysis of mark positioning and bone surface modification, suggests that by at least 1.8 million years ago, hominins were sometimes the first to access large animal carcasses, meaning they were actively competing with, and on at least some occasions displacing, large carnivores from kills. That is a remarkable behavioral shift for an animal that lacked large teeth, claws, or any conventional biological weaponry. At Boxgrove in West Sussex, England, a site dated to approximately 500,000 years ago and associated with Homo heidelbergensis, bones of large horses Andrinocerosis display systematic butchery marks from stone tools alongside evidence of deliberate marrow extraction. The pattern at Boxgrove is not consistent with opportunistic scavenging of predator-killed carcasses. The anatomy of the kill sites, the distribution of skeletal elements, and the systematic nature of the processing all point to organized, premeditated hunting events. These were not individuals stumbling across a dead animal. They were coordinated groups targeting, killing, and efficiently processing large prey. And at Pinnacle Point on the southern coast of South Africa, archaeological evidence dated to approximately 164,000 years ago documents Homo sapiens collecting a fine-grained silica rock called silcrete from sources up to 30 kilometers away, and then deliberately heating it at controlled temperatures before napping, because heat treatment improves the material's fracture properties and allows the production of sharper, more precise flakes. This isn't reactive problem solving. This is multi-stage planning across time, acquiring material, processing it thermally, and then using the transformed material to create tools. It is among the earliest evidence of the kind of extended temporal reasoning, planning today for a tool you will need tomorrow, that separates human cognition from every other species that ever shared this planet. We've covered how early humans defended themselves, but what happened when they stopped just surviving and began actively hunting the apex predators of their age? That reversal is one of the most dramatic stories in natural history. We'll get to it right after this. The Great Reversal, when humans became the predators. Around 50,000 years ago, something in the archaeological record changes. And it changes in a way that, once you see it clearly, is almost impossible to interpret as anything other than what it is: the emergence of a new apex predator. As anatomically modern Homo sapiens expanded out of Africa and moved into regions where large animals had evolved across hundreds of thousands of years without encountering bipedal hunters carrying projectile weapons and coordinating social groups of dozens, those animals began disappearing. Not gradually, not ambiguously, but in geologically rapid, continent-scale extinction events that track the arrival of humans with disturbing fidelity. In Australia, approximately 46,000 years ago, within a geologically brief window following the first confirmed evidence of human arrival on the continent, roughly 90% of the megafaunal species went extinct. Diprotodon optatum, a herbivore related to wombats but the size of a hippopotamus. Genyornis newtoni, a flightless bird standing nearly 2 meters tall, whose egg fragments have been found with heat-related chemical signatures suggesting cooking. Megalania prisca, a monitor lizard potentially reaching 7 meters in length, the largest terrestrial lizard known from the fossil record. All gone within a span of time too short for climate change alone to explain. In the Americas, the pattern is essentially identical. Humans arrived approximately 13,000 years ago, and within 1 to 2,000 years, the continent had lost its mammoths, its mastodons, its giant ground sloths, its glyptodons, its American horses, its camels, its short-faced bears, and its American lions. Paul Martin's overkill hypothesis, first formally articulated in 1973, argues that naive megafauna, animals that had never evolved defensive behaviors in response to coordinated human hunting, were simply unable to sustain the novel predation pressure. The hypothesis remains debated, particularly regarding the relative contribution of concurrent climate transitions, but the temporal correlation between human arrival and megafaunal collapse is documented at enough sites across enough continents to represent a genuine pattern. What this extinction record tells us, read alongside the earlier evidence of survival and adaptation, is the full arc of the story. The predators that hunted our ancestors for millions of years, the saber-tooths, the giant hyenas, the massive crocodilians, did not disappear because the climate changed or because the world ran out of prey. Many of them disappeared because the prey they had hunted for millennia had become something else entirely. Something that learned from every failed hunt, that could communicate danger across generations, that could throw a spear from outside the reach of any claw, and that could coordinate 30 individuals in the dark around a fire. In the long run, the predator that learned the most won. Takeaway. So how did ancient humans survive history's deadliest predators? Not through size, not through speed, not through biological armor or venom or the specialized anatomy of a born killer. Every single physical metric that matters in a direct confrontation between species favored the predators that hunted our ancestors. The saber-tooth was stronger, faster to close range, and biologically equipped with killing instruments that took millions of years of evolution to perfect. And it is extinct. We are not. Our ancestors survived because they learned to use fire in the dark, turning the predator's greatest advantage, the night, into their own protected domain. They survived because they stayed together and cared for each other, extending the survival of individuals who would otherwise have died, and with them the knowledge those individuals carried. They survived because they could throw a spear from a distance no predator anticipated, and because they could make a better spear tomorrow than they made today. And above all, they survived because they could talk. Because they could describe a danger they had seen last week to someone who had never seen it, so that person would know what to do when they encountered it for the first time. Every fireside conversation about where the leopard was spotted, every demonstrated technique for shaping a stone point, every warning passed between individuals was a piece of accumulated knowledge that compounded across generations into something neither species had ever built. A cultural immune system against the most dangerous world that has ever existed. The most dangerous animal in the Pleistocene was not Smilodon. It was not Pachycracuda. It was a slow, fragile primate who had learned that the most powerful force in nature is not a claw or a fang. It is a shared understanding of how to be alive tomorrow.